expansive lands of the Madikwe Conservancy, a pregnant lioness is receiving dedicated attention from the reserve rangers. To ensure her safety and well-being, they've created a secure enclosure surrounded by fencing where her health is monitored daily. She's kept well-nourished and under the watchful eye of an on-call veterinarian who ensures that any birthing issues are swiftly managed. One warm, sunny morning, she gave birth to a healthy cub with a soft golden coat. Since that moment, both mother and cub have been under careful observation, slowly adjusting to the surrounding human presence and the occasional laughter of visitors. Rangers Sarah Miller and James Botha routinely visit to check their vitals, feed them, and watch for any behavioral changes. Over time, the two rangers have built a strong bond with the lioness and her cub, gaining their trust and cooperation. As the cub started to grow, it began practicing how to run, climb small rocks, and even attempted its first roars. At this stage, the conservation team determined it was time to reintroduce the mother and cub into the open wild of the Conservancy. Before relocation, James and Sarah conducted thorough checks, examining their breathing, digestion, and blood pressure to ensure stability. Once all signs were normal, they gently secured the mother and her cub into a specially designed transport cage. The vehicle moved across the open plains, taking the two lions back to the wild habitat of Madikwe. As they drove through grasslands filled with wildebeest, the young cub's eyes sparkled with curiosity and excitement. When they reached the release point, James opened the cage carefully, allowing the mother to step out first before inviting the cub to follow. Sarah and James waved goodbye as the lions walked into the wild, turning back and leaving them in nature's hands. At first, the cub stumbled often, awkwardly trying to chase small animals like lizards and squirrels. The mother began teaching her cub to stalk prey, stay silent, and pounce at the right moment without hesitation. On their first successful hunt, they caught a rabbit near the forest edge and shared the meal together. A few days later, while visiting a dried-up lakebed for water, they found the decomposing body of a deer. Out of curiosity, the young cub tasted some of the decayed meat, unaware of the danger that lurked. The mother growled and pushed the cub away from the carcass, but not before it had already swallowed several pieces. By the following day, the cub was listless, lying in the grass, its belly noticeably bloated. It groaned quietly, tried stretching, but couldn't stand, eventually rolling onto its side in discomfort. The mother, deeply worried, paced around the cub, sniffing its belly and letting out anxious growls. That night she stayed close to her cub, resting beside it to provide warmth and comfort. On the second day, the cub remained motionless, refusing food, its eyes dull and exhausted. Its stomach appeared swollen and tight, its breathing quick and shallow, almost like it was gasping. The mother roared into the air, seemingly calling for help that she couldn't provide on her own. She lay beside her cub under the intense midday heat of the savannah, their still bodies unnoticed by the outside world. Back at the operations center, James was reviewing GPS data from the lioness and cub, noticing their signal hadn't moved in 2 days. Sarah called immediately. "I'm seeing the same. Something's definitely wrong. We need to get there now." They quickly packed a medical kit, a handheld ultrasound device, and emergency rescue supplies before heading out. Their vehicle sped through the terrain, kicking up dust as worry creased their faces. Finally, they spotted the lioness lying next to her cub, lifting her head at the sight of familiar humans. James stepped out first, raising his hand to avoid alarming the lioness. She recognized them and moved back a few steps, staying alert but not hostile. Sarah approached cautiously, kneeling beside the cub to assess its vital signs. Acute enteritis, she concluded, likely caused by ingesting spoiled meat. A few more hours and it could have been fatal. James, maintaining composure, prepared a painkiller injection and disinfected the site with practiced hands. Though weak, the cub seemed to relax slightly at the scent and presence of its trusted caretakers. Sarah administered the injection into The cub's leg vein. It trembled lightly, then shut its eyes in exhaustion. The two exchanged a silent nod. "We need to bring the cub in now." James contacted the medical team ahead of their arrival to ready the emergency unit. Together, they lifted the cub gently onto a soft cloth stretcher and placed it into the cushioned rear of the vehicle. The mother lion watched with evident concern, but made no attempt to resist. "Don't worry," Sarah whispered to her. "We'll bring your cub back. Just stay here." As the car drove off, it left behind a trail of dust and a worried lioness watching from the wilderness. On the way, the cub lay quietly, but its pain-filled expression had softened. At the rescue center, the veterinary staff stood ready with medical equipment and a stretcher. Amanda, the lead vet, quickly examined the cub with gloves on and instructed the team to move it into surgery. A steady heart monitor beeped as she scanned the cub's abdomen using the ultrasound probe. The diagnosis was clear. The stomach had to be flushed and the spoiled matter removed immediately. The operating lights switched on. The cub was gently sedated for the procedure. Amanda opened the belly, cleaned out the infected material, and removed all the decaying remains. After over an hour, the procedure was complete. The incision was stitched carefully and bandaged. A few hours later, the cub slowly regained consciousness, blinking and lifting its head slightly. Amanda smiled and said, "You're a fighter. Just rest and heal now." In recovery, the cub was given fluids, antibiotics, and pain relief through an IV. Its stomach returned to normal, and its breathing became smooth and effortless. James and Sarah visited, petting its head as the cub gently wagged its tail in recognition. By the next day, the cub's vitals were back to normal, and it was cleared to reunite with its mother. Before departure, it received immunity boosters and anti-infection medication. The vehicle crossed the plains, again carrying with it a second chance for the young cub. As they neared the release site, the mother lion was already waiting, her eyes scanning the horizon. Hearing the engine, she bolted forward, almost as if she had expected her cub's return. Sarah opened the door, and the cub stepped down cautiously, still recovering from the incision. Pain. The mother immediately approached, sniffed the cub closely, and then lovingly rubbed her face against it. They lay together in the glowing light of the African sunset, reunited and at peace. James placed 2 servings of fresh meat nearby, a meal to celebrate survival and reunion. The lions ate while casting thankful glances at their human rescuers. Sarah leaned down, gave the cub one last pat, and stepped back toward the vehicle. As the car turned away, the silhouettes of the lions slowly faded into the golden savannah. Their life in the wild continued, now stronger and more connected than ever. From that day forward, the GPS data showed consistent, healthy movement across the reserve. Every morning, James and Sarah checked their tracking screen with quiet satisfaction. The lion cub's rescue became a celebrated story at Madikwe, a symbol of compassion. In the face of nature's challenges, in this vast wilderness, every life has a chance, as long as brave people are willing to protect it. And somewhere out there, a young lion's roar echoes across the plains, marking the beginning of a new journey. Thank you, dear viewer, for staying with us through this story. If it touched your heart, don't forget to like and subscribe to support more work like this.